All right. Welcome back, everybody. Today's special guest is Ingrid Huitema. I think I got that right. From Park Trek. She's one of the directors there. And she's jumped on today to share her story and what's been happening in their world of the walking space and in domestic tourism and the industry, and obviously, how the last few months have been going. So welcome, Ingrid.
Hi, Josh. How you going?
Very good, thank you. Give us a bit of a backstory on yourself, how you got into the game and what led you to jump into Park Trek.
So my backstory, I started in tourism in a PR and marketing capacity. So I worked with people like Tourism Victoria and Tourism NT, and I did some other work with various other tourism people. We were living in Melbourne and wanting to go to regional Victoria, make the move out of the city. And I was actually just Googling and businesses for sale so that we could make the move. And this walking company came up in Seek Business, I think it was. So just kind of had a bit more of a look into it, had a chat to Paul and said, well, what do you think? You know, I'm a hiker, I'm in tourism, we could do this. And then the rest, they say, is history. So that was 6 years ago, and we've been operating Park Trek since then. Park Trek's been around since 2000, since the year 2000. So 2020 is our 20th anniversary. Great year to have a 20th anniversary. And now we've moved down to regional Victoria. So we're in Inverloch, and all was going fantastically well before March rolled around. So that's my backstory.
And tell us a little bit more about Park Trek and what you guys do and what were you doing up until sort of pre-COVID, and obviously give us a bit of a rundown on how the last few months have been for you guys.
Yeah, sure. So Park Trek, we run multi-day guided walking tours across Australia. So we operate in all of the states and territories other than Queensland. So the walks range from 3 days to 10 days. 3 days is, like a shorter tour, Great Ocean Walk or something that's fairly easy to get to, where a 10-day tour is, like a more remote destination like the Kimberley or Kakadu, Arnhem Land, Nitmiluk, the longer tours. So we have we had around about 30 in our team of guides and office staff. Now that we've not operated since March, we've got obviously a much smaller team. But people come with us for, a nature-based tourism experience. We're advanced eco-certified and we take that really seriously, down to our guides organising with local farmers in Tassie where to drop off our green waste so that the chickens can eat them, so we're not throwing things away. We're asking people to bring their own keep cups and all of those things so they're not getting takeaway coffee cups when we're on the road, and just all of those little things. And we feel like it's some of the little things that can help make a bigger change. And while we're on tour, our guides are very conscious of environmental aspects of the touring, so that they're trying to educate some people as well. We have a lot of older guests who are generally 45 to 50 over, up to 75 and up into 80. So talking to people about how they could perhaps change some of their ways to become a little less intense on the environmental pressure is part of, I suppose, the things that we do when we're out on the trail, as well as talking about the environment, the beautiful places that we're going within the national parks. And we go, accommodation we even choose is either in the national park, close to the national park, that are small operators that care about their sustainability, the environmental footprint that they're leaving, all the rest of it. So so that's a little bit about us, what was pre-COVID, I guess, because we haven't been operating since the end of March. We closed down the office on the 20th of March when COVID world came crashing down around us all, and it was very clear that there was, when Tasmania closed their borders, and it was a bit of a noose that was tightening. So we spent kind of that last week in disaster mode, trying to figure out what we were going to do, if we were going to be able to do anything. But it became really clear that there was not going to be any way that we could operate with the restrictions and happenings that COVID had caused. So, it was obviously, for most people in the travel industry, it was a pretty stressful and traumatic week, that last week. But we finished up on the Friday with some wine and some nibbles and kind of debriefed, and I guess it's kind of like a trauma that the team went through. So we kind of finished up, didn't know what was going to happen. JobKeeper wasn't around at that point. So we kind of left, a call with all of our guides and with the office team who were obviously physically there, just kind of saying, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when we'll be back. We'll let you know when we know what we can do. And that was kind of it. We closed the doors and walked out, and still haven't been back. So everyone's been working remotely since then. We were able to keep a core team of guides on through JobKeeper, and our office team as well through JobKeeper. We've had our team's drilled, and that's kind of been the way of life since March. We're really excited that things were starting to open up, and we kind of put out some campaigns through some partners, got lots of bookings. People were really keen to get out on the trails. Obviously, we're a small operator with groups of 10, so it kind of fit well with people who are a bit nervous. They don't want to go perhaps out on a bigger group that they might feel a little bit uncomfortable. So we were in a really great position, and we've got a lovely product as well. But it was, again, not to be, that Victoria didn't fare very well. So we were supposed to go out on August the 4th. We were going to spend August and September in South Australia, on Kangaroo Island, in the Flinders Ranges, and in Arkaroola. But that all came to a grinding halt as well with all the borders closing again. So we've kind of had, I suppose everyone talks about this being a second wave. For us, it was definitely a second wave, because we were gearing back up to get everything happening, and then that was kind of shut down again. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen now, but I feel, we've done it before, so we can do it again, and it may just be a lot of administration to reschedule people and cancel them, whatever we need to do, obviously. But we're just going week by week at the moment, and we'll see what we can do as the weeks and months progress. And
so what do you think's next for you guys? Like, what's kind of the next stage that, obviously you're working day by day, week by week, but what's this next stage that you're kind of hoping or working towards, where you can get moving again?
Well, we've got lots of different ideas of what that may look like, because it's really anyone's guess at this stage. Victoria is going, fairly terribly. We're letting the team down, so to speak. So we would, one of the scenarios is that maybe that Victoria is in its own infected bubble, so to speak, that we can run Victorians in Victoria. So we have some tours into East Gippsland in September that we may be able to run, as long as Melbourne unlocks itself, and whether that can. Obviously, a lot of our clients come from Melbourne, from the city. So it may be that we can run Victoria tours for Victorians, and if we can keep the kind of infected state separate to the rest of the country, then the rest of the country can travel around. So we could run Tasmania with guests from all over the country other than Victoria, perhaps. So that's probably the most likely scenario at the moment. But, who knows? It may be that, New South Wales is now seeing some cases. So it may be that the border between Victoria and New South Wales opens up again, because we're both as bad as each other. So Victoria and New South Wales tours could run, as a separate, but then that would obviously not enable us to run Tasmania, because I would say 80% of our guests from Victoria and New South Wales are booking, like a Tasmanian product, for example. So it's anyone's guess what will happen. you know, in one mind, I'm thinking it would be great. We might be out by October. Then in another mind, you know, we might be lucky to get out before the end of the year. So I think it will just really matter, depending what happens in the next couple of weeks, will kind of determine what happens for the rest of the year. But, you know, where we look back into March and we just thought, oh, you know, we may never run again, worst case scenario. But things kind of, you know, turned around in a fairly short amount of time. You know, by the end of June, we were kind of opening up. So if we're looking into July, August, September, you know, by October, things might be opening up again. It will just really depend on kind of how things play out. But, you know, I think it's beyond our control. We can't change it. It's something that obviously the government are directing the border closures and the regulations around things that we can't control. So I feel at this point, this time around, we're a bit better at it. We've done it before. We can do it again. We'll be there at the other end. It just will just be when the other end we can start. So, but I feel like if we can get out there, you know, as soon as it's safe to do so, that would be great for our team. You know, the guests really want to travel, but obviously we're going to be governed as to what we're able to do, what we're allowed to do, and what's possible for us to do. So, you know, it's hopefully the string won't be too long.
And Ingrid, do you guys take a lot of inbound international tourists on your tours?
No, we don't. We're in a really good position. I guess there's a lot of people within the industry who, you know, are worse off than us. So I don't want to feel like that, you know, we're hard done by when the whole industry is really hurting. We're in a really fortunate position that probably 98% of our guests are domestic travellers. So, you know, when we can get going, we will be in a really great position to be able to do that. It's just a matter of when that will be. But I guess, you know, we can operate as we were in the past. And I think we're finding a lot of people that are booking with us booking because they can't go, you know, they can't go to the Camino, or they can't go on their hike in Nepal or wherever. They usually, you know, will have, say, a 1 tour or 2 tours that they do with us a year, but they'll also go and do a couple of international hikes as well. So obviously they can't do those international things for the foreseeable future. So we're getting a lot of people and groups of people who are now booking or wanting to book with us because they can't, unfortunately, do their international stuff as well.
And what about obviously the inbound tourists not coming, may not necessarily be affecting your product and your business directly, but, you know, the supplies you use on the ground, the accommodation that you use, you know, you mentioned Tassie and places like that, you know, those tourism industries are heavily reliant on those international tourists coming in. You know, do you see that there could be an impact to, you know, possible closures of some of those smaller accommodation, you know, places and so forth, if they're only relying on the domestic tourist, and how could you see that impacting the industry?
Yeah, that's something that we kind of talked about early on, and we've got really great relationships with our accommodation suppliers, and we also do on some of our tours we do use other kind of on-ground touring products as part of our tours. For us, because we use really small, fairly localised accommodation, a lot of them aren't, and it's not kind of the bigger hotel operations. Most of the properties that we use have domestic guests anyway, or you know, with a couple of the destinations, Bay of Fires and Three Capes, definitely we own our own Three Capes property, so, you know, that's completely fine. That's probably our most popular tour in Tassie. Probably our second most popular is in the Bay of Fires, and we basically book out their accommodation for our tours for most of the season. So I think we're actually bringing a lot of the business to a lot of the accommodation suppliers that we deal with, particularly in Tassie. In South Australia, we're up in, we say at Rawnsley Park. They're quite busy just with their South Australian visitors, because South Australia has obviously just been open to its own, that they're kind of saying, do you want these rooms? Because if you don't want them, we'll be able to sell them to people from South Australia. So it's not a concern for us, which is great, and it's great for the operators that we're working with. So, and I think that's part of the reason why we're really keen to be able to get out there, is because, we understand that what our tour brings to the local tourism businesses and economies is really important. And without, us being able to support them from our tours, then that does leave a big hole in their budgets as well. So it's kind of that flow-on effect. But, hopefully we can get out there and get things moving to, kind of support the other people that we work with in the tourism space as well.
From a travel agent's perspective, I guess, international travel is such a massive key to having a successful business and having an income and all of those things. And yes, domestic's there for, I guess, a little bit of reprieve from the lack of income that's been coming in for them. Trying to get that sort of overseas experience, or that international experience that customers are looking for, but domestically in Australia. How do you see that sort of panning out? Is that something that, from a marketing perspective, obviously that's your background, how do we all tap into that a little bit more and really, really not just promote these domestic products, but also show how they're either similar or it's a replacement. Instead of doing Camino, you could do this. Instead of doing base camp, you could be doing the overland track. How do we as a collective industry get to that point that we can not just showcase what the people in Australia already know is there, but really help them understand, by traveling in Australia, there's lots of benefits to it. It's safe and everything that's there. But also, if you thought about doing X, this is actually what you could be doing instead, and be cheaper, and it's closer, and and obviously you can support those local industries and the local tourism at the same time as agents being able to gain an income, like they were with their international travelers.
Yeah, totally. It's obviously it's really tough for agents, and trying to educate people. I feel like that there is a lot of that education from a marketing perspective that is out there already, and I feel like Australians in general are really great at supporting people through difficult times. We've just a small example, we put on a bushfire charity tour into the Vic Alps, and obviously we only we've got small tours, we only have 10 people on each tour, but we put it up on Friday and it sold out by Sunday. So they're feeling like what they're doing is actually helping other people within the community. So I think that from that perspective, and also what the state and territory tourism bodies are doing to promote their own products is really great. And also from a federal perspective as well, Tourism Australia's campaigns, etc. And I guess people don't have a choice. They can't go overseas. So it's not like they actually have a choice to be able to choose, something in the French Alps or something in the Flinders Ranges, because that's kind of off the table for the time being. I think that people often go, oh, yeah, I'd like to go down to the Three Capes, but I just haven't got around to it yet. Or I'd like to go to Wilson's Prom. I've never walked out to the lighthouse. I live in Melbourne and I haven't been to the Prom for like 10 years, but it's just so beautiful down there. I just should go back again. So people know about these destinations, and now I guess, one, because they haven't got the choice for that international, that if we can show some of the amazing experiences, and obviously we just work from a nature-based walking perspective, that they can have these wonderful experiences in their own state, perhaps that may be as far as they can go, or around the rest of Australia. Like going to the Kimberley is incredible experience, going to the Kimberley and being able to be shown around and walk places that you probably wouldn't walk by yourself because you're a little bit nervous about going out perhaps into that environment without knowing particularly where you're going, or understanding some of the things that could go wrong when you're out there. Having that level of support is really comforting, particularly for our demographic of people. So I think it's just reimagining the Australian experiences and trying to, you know, talk to people about the wonderful things that they can do here. I think that that's already happening, and obviously it will continue to happen because we just don't have that choice to be able to look internationally. We can dream about what we can do, but, you know, you're going to get a very different experience here. You're not going to be able to, you know, have all the beautiful French patisseries and all of those things that you would get, but you can still have a very different experience and understand perhaps something a bit more about where we live in our own country, and revisit something that perhaps people haven't been to a place since their childhood, which is a really nice thing to be able to come back and revisit when they're a bit older as well.
And so advice for agents out there that are looking to be able to sort of put this product in front of their customers a little bit more, and obviously hoping to not only get their customers moving and get them experiencing this stuff, but also being able to generate some bookings and you know, get some income, you know, coming into their own businesses. What's your advice for those guys?
Hit us up. Let us know what you need. We've got, look, there's heaps of products. You know, you can be coastal, you can be mountain, you can be outback. So there's lots of different products. You know, if people are that nature-based traveller and they're looking for that kind of immersive small group experience, you know, our website obviously has a lot of information about the different destinations. We've got all of the trip notes that people can have a look through if they're kind of interested in listing any. We're talking a lot with agents, particularly in the last few months, who are wanting to sell more domestic product. We're commissionable product, so we can, you know, more than happy to work with a range of agents that can book FIT onto our existing departures, or we can organise particular group dates if they're wanting a date to sell for a group of 10. Then those things are all possible. Or bigger groups, we work with, you know, charity partners and other partners, agents and operators that we deliver the ground tours for. So we can, you know, there's a charity that come with us every year that there's about 60 of them in their group. So, you know, there's a potential for really big groups as well as small groups, and then just obviously booking onto our scheduled departures as well. So there's lots of scope for agents, and, you know, we put ourselves as a mid-range operator. We're not, you know, the high-end. The Great Walks of Australia program is probably, you know, the high-end product. They see a lot of more of the international guests than we do. But we say ours is a beautiful product. It's a very authentic, down-to-earth experience. You know, 40 to 75, 80 years old is our kind of target market. You know, they are very nature-based travellers. They're, you know, we say we focus on the walking is the focus for us. You know, the food is lovely, but it's, you know, home style. It's prepared by our chefs. It's healthy, hearty and wholesome. It's not chef prepared dinners and fine wines. That's not what we're about. People obviously can, you know, we can bring their own wine, or we stop at bottle shops so they can support local businesses to buy wines and beers when they're on the tours. But it's something, I suppose, it's very accessible to, you know, a wide range of people. And, you know, like everyone's a walker, right? After lockdown, we couldn't get out and do much, but we could go out and go walking. So people have, you know, got some kind of walking fitness, and you know, there's a range of walks available as well. You know, if there's someone that's not particularly fit, who's a little bit nervous about it, you know, something like Kangaroo Island is a great starting point, because it's, you know, it's pretty flat. It's not going to be too difficult for them. You know, if they're wanting something a bit more energetic, they could do, you know, the Grampians or the Vic Alps or Snowy Mountains, something like that. So there's kind of, you know, a range of tours within the tours that we offer. And if agents are wanting to know more about, you know, particular tours or particular destinations, and they can just give us a call, send us an email, and you know, we can help out with whatever they need for if it's a group or a couple or whatever it is. Happy to help out. And, you know, obviously we're commissionable. So the tours are, you know, generally a couple of $1,000s per person. So it's, you know, it's a nice little commission for them if they can get people interested in booking on them. Yeah.
So you've got domestic product, you've got state-based products, so people can travel in their own state. If they can get out to another state, great.
Yeah.
Generally Aussies traveling on those trips. So, you know, not necessarily worried about trips cancelling because we're not getting international tourists coming in.
Correct.
Using local products. So again, not worried about hotels closing or accommodation places closing because again, they don't restricted from not having that inbound tourism. And if
Yep.
you know, that price point's kind of sitting somewhere in that sort of, you know, middle to medium space, it might be a really good place for people to start, because as people get confidence to travel, they also need confidence in their finances. So, you know,
Correct.
as we all go through this, you know, this challenging time, people are less likely to possibly be, you know, buying top end luxury product anyway. You know, even for people that may previously could have afforded that, maybe a little bit more conservative in their, you know, willing to spend their hard-earned cash, not knowing what the future could look like. So I think it's for me, it sounds like a really great product that's going to suit a bit of interim travel for a lot of people. You know, and you know, what better way to get out and about than you know, a bit of exercise, walking, getting into nature. And as we all know, if you put in a good hard day's worth of walking, then you know, those beers and wines and nice food at the end of the day is always a little bit less sort of more guilt free than not walking an 8-hour day. So it sounds like a really cool product, and you know, I didn't know about it before, and it's great to see you guys are working hard to get ready for the other side, and we wish you all the best. But before we let you go, as always, we'd like to get a nomination off you of somebody else you think maybe in the industry that would like to share their story and let us know what's happening in their world.
Yeah, sure. I was thinking of Sue Heil. She runs a lovely company called Adventurous Women, and they're based in Perth in WA. So we work with them. We deliver some of their East Coast tours, and they work with us to deliver some of the West Coast tours. They are a women's only walking tour company, and they have domestic product and international. But obviously, at the moment, we're just looking at the domestic side of things. So I thought Sue might be an interesting person for you to talk to in the future.
Yeah, cool. We'll hit her up and tag her in the post and see if she can jump on and share her story as well. But thanks heaps for jumping on. You know, huge amount of value. I've learned a lot myself today about the product and which customers it could possibly suit. It's probably got me thinking about exploring my own backyard a little bit more, and when the borders open up a little bit, get back down to Tassie and go do, you know, one of those walks that I've been putting off, you know, because I lived there for 27 years. You know, you don't necessarily even explore your own backyard that's, you know, an hour down the road, like you said, or go visit the lighthouse and that sort of stuff. So good luck, and we look forward to catching up on the other side of all of this.
Thanks so much, Josh.
No worries. All right. Talk soon. See ya.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.